Okay, everyone, I am going to talk about the most forgotten Nickelodeon show in history. And that show is called House of Anubis. So, House of Anubis is about a group of kids at an English boarding school who live in Anubis house. And there's like a secret club between the students, and they have to solve different mysteries inside the House of Anubis. It's like a mystery solving thriller show, but it still has that Nickelodeon vibe to it. But this show is not your typical Nickelodeon show. Like, the whole story and plot is crazy. It's based on like Egyptian lore and the Egyptian gods and magical objects. There's like spirits, there's people being possessed. Like, it's crazy. And there's basically like three sides to this show. You either loved it as a kid back in 2013 and just forgot about it over the years, or you either loved it as a kid and is still obsessed with this show to this day, like myself, or you either have never seen this show before in your life. And if you haven't seen this masterpiece before, then this video is also for you as well, because today I am going to be explaining everything about this show. I will be talking about each character, each season, each villain, everything. So yeah, let's do it. So first I'm going to discuss each season individually, and I'm not going to get into too much detail with each specific character right now, because I'm going to explain the characters right after I discuss the seasons. So yeah, alright, let's start off with season 1. So this season introduces us to students Nina, Fabian, Jerome, Patricia, Alfie, Amber, Mara, Mick, and Joy. And this season starts with Joy, Patricia's friend, mysteriously leaving the school. Like, she doesn't say goodbye to anyone, she just gets called out of class and she just disappears. She's gone. So Patricia obviously thinks something's going on because she knows her best friend wouldn't leave without saying anything to anyone. And all the teachers are acting like really weird about it. Like, everyone's acting suspicious and it feels like they're trying to cover something up. Like, you could feel something is not right about the situation. But then a new American girl shows up, and let's just say she doesn't get a warm welcome.
Joyous! Now where is she?
But after all that, Nina meets an old woman called Sarah Frobisher Smythe, and Sarah gives Nina a necklace. Nina then took the necklace with her and kept it safe, and Sarah tells Nina that there's treasure in Anubis house and only she has the power to find it. Nina kind of brushes it off, but one day Patricia was asking Nina to learn about the new ceremony, which is held for every new student in Anubis house, which is to go up to the attic by yourself and stay there, I guess, for a little while. Okay, that's a cool tradition, I guess. But Nina agreed and went inside the attic. She was scared at first, but then she realizes when she's up there that the necklace is somehow connected to the Anubis house, and it allows her to open secret doors and chambers that lead to like these mystical objects. So then the mystery begins. Shortly thereafter, Fabian, Amber, Patricia, and Alfie join Nina on her journey, and they make a name for their little club called Sabuna, which is like Anubis backwards, and Jerome joins in soon after, like as an ally. And they also do this little thing where they cover their hand with their eye and they say Sabuna, but yeah. Anyways, they find out that all the treasure pieces that they have put together make up an Egyptian cup which grants immortality, called the Cup of Ankh. And when someone drinks the elixir of life from it, which is like a magical potion. But anyways, once they drink the elixir of life from the cup, they will become immortal. But it's also said that ages ago that the Egyptian gods Anubis and Amorous made an agreement that the cup can only be put together by a special person every 25 years. A special person who has to be born on a certain day, at a certain time, and at a certain month. You know, like the first month on the first day during the first hour. This person is known as the Chosen One, who is like a supernatural person who has all these special powers. You get the gist. And that's where Joy comes in. So Victor, who is the caretaker for the 9 kids, basically is an Egyptian genius, and he like knows all about Egyptian mythology and stuff, and he formed a secret society with some of the teachers, and he told them all about the cup and how they could live forever. His father was actually the first one to create the elixir of life and pass down the ingredients to Victor. So they already have the elixir of life. And the teachers, including Joy's parents, by the way, basically kidnap Joy because they think she's the chosen one because she was born on the 7th month, July, on the 7th day at 7 p.m. And eventually at the end, the teachers steal the pieces from Sabuna and they make Joy form the cup. Except for that she can't because she's not the chosen one. Joy was born at 7 p.m., which is the 19th hour. But in order for her to be the chosen one, she would have to be born on the 7th hour, which is 7 a.m. But she wasn't. It was actually Nina the whole damn time, which explains why she could only use the locket's power and no one else can. So Nina goes and builds the cup and decides to hide it so no one else could use it for evil purposes. And that's it. That's basically season 1 in a nutshell. Oh, and there was also Rufus. He was like the bad guy who wanted to live forever as well, but he wanted the cup of ink all for himself, and he goes off thinking that he's immortal because he drank from it. But the kids swapped out Victor's elixir for a fake elixir, so he's still a regular guy and he ends up thinking he won. He was an okay villain, I guess, but yeah. Anyways, solid first season. And now we go to season 2. So season 2 starts with the students returning from their summer vacation, and they also get a new student named Eddie who comes in as the new bad boy of the show, I guess. And remember him because he's important for later. So Sabuna also finds out that Rufus, the villain of last season, is dead.
Guess he found out he wasn't immortal the hard way.
And everything seems fine and everyone's happy and stuff until one night Nina accidentally unleashes a spirit called Sankara, who was like trapped inside the cup of ink the whole time. And this spirit pretty much orders Nina to find the mask of Anubis or she will kill her and her friends. The show tells us that the mask of Anubis is like this mystical object that grants whoever wears it can go into the afterlife and become a god. And it also produces tears of gold. It's unknown what else the mask's power can do, but that's all the show tells us about it pretty much. But anyway, the gang decides to get Sabuna back together so they could find the mask, or you know, Sankara will kill them. Oh, and by the way, I don't know how this ghost was allowed on Nickelodeon. I literally had nightmares about her, and she still kind of scares me till this day. But anyway, Sabuna does some research and finds out that there's actually a replica mask in their school library. So now they know what the mask of Anubis actually looks like. So it shouldn't be so hard to find it now, right? Right? Nope, the gang finds out that the mask of Anubis is actually somewhere under the house. They get this map from Sarah's ghost that shows under the house is actually like tunnels and where the mask of Anubis is located. Oh yeah, by the way, it was revealed this season that Sarah, the old lady who gives Nina the locket, was the original chosen one before Nina. So last season, Nina and Sarah formed a bond, but then Sarah sadly died, but Sarah's ghost basically helps the gang this season through like a dollhouse. Yes, I know it sounds weird, but it works for me, so yeah. So using the map that Sarah gave them, they find this secret door that leads them to like a bunch of puzzles and booby traps there to prevent the mask of Anubis from ever being found. So basically Sabuna has to solve each puzzle so they can progress through the tunnels and find the mask of Anubis. And these aren't like friendly games or anything. If they do something wrong or don't complete a challenge correctly, they could die, bro. And I know what you're thinking. Who the heck would make all these traps to prevent the mask from being found? And don't worry, we'll get to him later. But Victor also sees them while going through the secret door, and he soon learns about the secret tunnels and how the massive Anubis is at the end of those tunnels. Now, Victor earlier that season was very bent on completing his elixir because the elixir, even without the cup of ink, could still grant someone immortality for decades. The cup of ink just does it permanently. And yes, Victor has been alive for 100 years, the show tells us. But he ran out of an ingredient called the tears of gold. And guess what produces tears of gold? You guessed right. The Mask of Anubis. So Victor this season pretty much watches Sabuna and follows them as they complete most of the puzzles. Pretty much lets them do all the hard work, and when the Mask of Anubis is there, he'll be ready to snatch it. Eventually Sabuna completes all the challenges and they get their hands on the mask. But once they try to give it to Sankara, she refuses and wants Nina to put on the mask because she wants to go into the afterlife and become a god. But she has to possess Nina's body to do that because she doesn't have a body of her own, obviously, you know, because she's a ghost. And Nina puts it on and nothing happens. Wait, is Nina not the chosen one? Has this whole show been a lie? Nah, I'm joking. So it turns out that the mask they did all these challenges for is a fake, and the real one was actually the one in the library the whole time. So Nina puts it on as Kara possesses her body, and Eddie, who's now revealed to be the Osirian. Oh, sorry. I must have skipped that part. Nina is told towards the end of the season that each chosen one has been paired up with an Osirian for centuries, and the Osirian is supposed to be like the complete opposite of the chosen one. You know, like personality, gender, etc. They're like yin and yang, and Nina is like a super sweet, nice girl. So it would make sense that her Osirian is revealed to be none other than the new bad boy in town, Eddie himself. But the Osirian is also the Chosen One's protector. Its sole reason for existing is to protect the Chosen One and make sure that they're safe. And you can tell that from the start when Eddie first gets his powers, and he automatically becomes protective of Nina, even though they barely even interacted this season. So Eddie uses his new powers to banish Sankara from Nina's body, and Rufus. Oh shit, yeah, I must have skipped that part too. Rufus was like alive this whole time. Yeah, he was just like alive, and he finds out the kids have the mask, so he follows them to the library and puts it on because he also wants to be a god, but he ends up getting banished to the underworld because he's not pure of heart. And yeah, the villains are defeated, and the kids and Victor decide to put the mask back to its place because they already caused enough trouble and damage. And then they have like this big end of the year party and celebrate. And yeah, that's season 2. So season 3 starts with everyone finding out that Nina, the main character for the last 2 seasons of the show, is not returning. There was a whole subplot that she's not returning because her grandma is sick, and she found out that her and Eddie have to be kept apart because he's the Osirian and she's the chosen one.
Paragon.
And the Osirian is your protector. Together, you keep the world safe.
He's the Osirian. The Osirian and the Chosen One are meant to be on the same side, aren't they?
His role is to protect her.
I don't know why the writers hyped up that the Osirian and Chosen One are like destined to protect the world together, only for them to say they have to be kept apart. Maybe they meant like if they're like together, bad things will come after them or something, but they just say bad things would happen, so I don't know. They could have just made her grandma being sick the only reason she left and had her do the long distance thing with Fabian. It would have been so much easier, but Nina doesn't come back this season and she never comes back to the show, so yeah. But anyways, the writers decided to make Eddie the new main character of the show because he's the only one with powers, obviously, besides Nina. And since Nina left, all the voices in the house and all the mysteries are now all on Eddie. So he starts having a vision about this girl and her grandpa, and in the vision her grandpa gives her a key and he tells her she has to go to Anubis' house to stop a great evil. And then the girl shows up and Eddie is like freaking the fuck out, but her name is KT, and she shows up and Eddie confronts her about his little vision, and he tells her he wants to help her because he's the Osirian, and they form this nice little cute friendship. And then Fabian, Alfie, and Patricia find out about the great evil, so they reform Sabuna, and then the mystery starts once again. Oh yeah, Amber left the show too, which was sad, and she gets replaced by this character Willow, who's really lame, but I'll talk about that later. And we also get Miss Denby, who's the new teacher, and she apparently has a key just like KT's, and those keys are important, so remember them. So for me to explain the mystery of this season, I have to explain who this guy is. Robert Frobisher Smythe. So Robert Frobisher Smythe was born in the late 1800s and was actually the original owner of Anubis House. And he had a daughter, Sarah, who was this lady. And he's like the Albert Einstein of Egyptianology. You know, he knows all about Egyptian lore, the gods, mystical artifacts. You get it. He's like one of the smartest guys to ever live, is what the show tells us. And everything that's happened in season 1 and season 2 is mainly because of him. He's the one who found all these mystical artifacts. You know, the Mask of Anubis, the Cup of Ankh, the Staff of Osiris. And he hid them in the house for no one to find. He built all of those traps that Sabuna had to get through to get the mask. Like, this guy basically started everything. And it's not like he was a bad guy. He just found and hid the artifact so that no harm could be done with it. And apparently one day he was part of an expedition crew that opened an Egyptian god's tomb, along with the great-grandparents of Patricia, Joy, Jerome, and Alfie. Crazy, right? But something terrible happened. Patricia, Joy, Jerome, and Alfie's great-grandparents stole from the tomb, but Robert took the rap for them, and because of this, a curse was put on him to sleep for eternity. So he's been asleep for like pretty much decades. But there's a ceremony that wakes him up, which is what leads us to the present day. So there have been 3 families who were chosen to wake him up, and that privilege gets passed down from generation to generation until everyone has what they need to wake him. And those 3 families were Victor's, Eric, the headmaster, and Eddie's dad, and surprise, surprise, the new teacher, Miss Denby. And now that they finally have all that they need, which is a mystical bracelet and instructions, which was Victor's job to get, and the descendants of the people who robbed the tomb, which was Eric's job, who did it by bringing the 4 descendants to the school on a scholarship, and Robert Frobisher Smythe himself, in which Miss Denby was in charge of watching and keeping safe the whole time. But the reason it took so long to wake him up is because they have to do the ceremony on a total eclipse, which happens I don't really know too sure. I think it's like every 50 or 100 years or something. And the total eclipse comes up this season, so yeah. But there's a catch. If any person of the 3 families who's not pure of heart does the ceremony, Robert Frobisher Smythe will wake up evil and serve Amit, ruler of the underworld. And then a great evil occurs. And Sabuna obviously figures all this out and tries to stop them because they think Miss Debbie is not pure of heart, which basically means, when I say not pure of heart, it basically means she's like kind of evil, and they think it's too risky to do the ceremony because if she's evil, Robert will also wake up evil. But unfortunately, they couldn't stop it in time, and surprise, surprise, he wakes up evil and serves Amit. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say this dude was absolutely incredible in this role. His acting was amazing, and he basically carried the whole season. But yeah, Robert Frobisher Smythe is awake, and his evil plan is to awaken Amit and bring her to the real world. You see, Amit is in the underworld right now, and he wants to release her so she could cause chaos. But in order for him to do that, he needs the souls of 5 people. The reason the room that he's been asleep in has 5 sarcophagus is because they're used to trap people and take their souls, turning them into sinners. And I know you're probably thinking, what's a sinner? Well, I'm glad you asked that. Let me explain. So in order for the sarcophagus to trap someone, a person has to sin. which in other terms means feel an emotion strongly. And the 5 specific emotions are anger, jealousy, spite, greed, and pride. A person has to be absolutely consumed by their emotion and placed in the sarcophagus. And once that happens, the sarcophagus will consume the person's soul, leaving them soulless.
You leave her alone.
The poor child. She won't suspect a thing.
Leave my girlfriend alone, or you'll have me to deal with. Did you hear me? Leave her alone!
That should be enough. Get him in the sarcophagus. What?
So a sinner is basically like an evil version of themselves. And once they're created, they only live to serve Robert Frobisher Smythe and Amit. And the 5 people of the show who end up becoming sinners is Victor for the sin of greed, Patricia for the sin of spite, Mr. Sweet, Eric for the sin of jealousy, Fabian for the sin of pride, and finally Alfie for the sin of anger. And I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty crazy seeing our fan favorite characters as like cruel versions of themselves, especially Fabian, bro. This dude was insane.
You think I can't convince them that you got it wrong? You always get it wrong, Alfie. You are the joke of the group.
But yeah, now that Robert has all 5 sinners, he still needs one more thing to complete his mission: the Staff of Osiris. The Staff of Osiris, when put together, is like basically a portal for Amit to come through once she has the souls of 5 people. But Alfie, Jerome, Patricia, and Joy's, ancestors split the staff in 4 pieces and hid each piece in places an evil Robert can never find. But Robert ended up tricking Sabuna by making him think that the Staff of Osiris can actually stop Amit from coming. So Sabuna ends up finding all pieces and built the Staff of Osiris, which to their surprise leads to Amit's arrival. And here she is, the ruler of the underworld is here. But she doesn't have any strength to leave the gatehouse yet, so she tells Robert to get more sinners. He turns all of them in Anubis' house to sinners, he turns the whole school to sinners. The only normal people left is pretty much Eddie and KT. And they find out that the 2 keys that KT and Miss Denby have, when put together and entered into the base of the Staff of Osiris, will send Amit back to the underworld along with all the evil she's caused. So they go back to the gatehouse, put the keys inside the staff, and Amit gets sent back. There's no more evil and everyone goes back to normal. Robert goes back to normal, but since he was asleep for 100 years, he goes back to the age that he should be in present day. And yeah, the day is saved and they have like a little festival at the end, and yeah, that's season 3. The movie starts with the kids having their last day at school and they're about to graduate. They're having the time of their lives right now. But apparently, the new freshmen are moving in early because the middle school has like bed bugs or something. Then they all go on like a school trip to like a museum and they learn, along with like all these other artifacts, about this artifact called the Touchstone of Ra. Once they get back to the Anubis house, the museum calls and tells them that the touchstone was stolen and it ended up in Eddie's bag, even though he has no idea how it got there. But Victor decides not to return the stone to the museum because his father once told him that once he finds the stone, that his destiny was to keep the stone safe and out of anyone's hands. Because apparently the stone, along with these 4 other stones, when built together, build the Pyramid of Ra. And according to legend, the Pyramid of Ra, when built, will get Ra, the god of sun, to rain down gold on earth. But in order for Ra to rain down his gold, he must have a human sacrifice. And when the pyramid is built, there is no turning back. Like, you can't change your mind. Someone has to die. Ra must have a sacrifice. And it's revealed that the origin of the stone was that Robert Frobisher Smythe himself, and I guess like a co-worker who was an alchemist, found the touchstone and the other 4 stones that are made to build the Pyramid of Ra. And the alchemist wanted to build the pyramid to get the gold, but Robert refused when he found out that a sacrifice had to be made. So he sent the touchstone away and hid the 4 stones under the house for no one to find. So anyway, Sabuna hears Victor talking about it, and they take the stone without Victor knowing because they think he's going to sacrifice someone to get the gold. But someone steals the stone from them, and it's revealed it was Sophia, one of the new kids. So Victor is actually not the bad guy, it's actually Sophia. But Sophia is technically not a kid at all because she's been the same age for like 100 years due to like the elixir of life, because apparently she actually has some elixir of life, you know, the same thing Victor drinks to stay the same age. I guess everyone has that shit now. But Sabuna figures out that by looking at the school's yearbook photos and seeing Sophia every few years in every class photo. And it also turns out that the alchemist who founded the stones was her dad. So Sophia is trying to like finish what her dad started and build the pyramid, and she has been trying to do this for like 100 years, hoping the touchstone would someday return, explaining why she's been coming back to Anubis' house every like few years. But yeah, she gets the stone from Eddie, and with the power of the stones, she summons the other stones that were built under the house and completes the Pyramid of Ra. Now that the Pyramid of Ra is built, a sacrifice is needed. So the whole gang pops out, and Sophia is trying to like sacrifice someone, but she's like taking too long, and Ra is like getting impatient and he's getting angry. So he decides, instead of raining down gold, to start shooting down lightning from the skies, and everything is going crazy. But then Victor tells Eddie that he has to sacrifice his Osirian inside him so that Ra will spare the world. So Eddie touches the pyramid and sacrifices himself to Ra, and like everyone thinks Eddie is dead, but he wakes up and Victor explains that the Osirian in Eddie died, but the boy lives. So Eddie is no longer the Osirian, he has no powers, he's just a regular kid now. So yeah, after all that, they graduate, and Victor decides to leave the house to protect the stone, and the kids say goodbye to him, and there's like an end of the year party like in every fucking season, and the show ends with the kids dancing and having fun, and the last shot zooms in on Anubis' house. And yeah, that's all the House of Anubis seasons for ya. I would say my ranking from best to worst would be season 2, then the movie, then season 3, and then season 1. I like season 1, but the acting is like at its worst. It looks cheap, and the story was good, but the other season stories are way better in my opinion. Now, season 3 did have its issues like plot holes, bad character writing, and bad pacing. Like, I think the best way to describe season 3 is that it's like a soft reboot of the show. They're still the same faces, but everything feels different. It's like a different vibe compared to season 1 and season 2. But even with all that being said, I still would rather watch season 3 than season 1 because it's more entertaining. Sorry. And the movie's second in my opinion because it was a good finale to the show. But season 2 is obviously the best. All the characters are at their best, the plot's amazing, the writing's at its best, like everything's great. And I think most House of Anubis fans will agree season 2 is 100% the best season. Willow! Alright, so I don't like Willow. She's a really annoying character, bro. She comes in as the replacement for Amber, who left the show in season 3, and it just doesn't work in my opinion. Her jokes are just corny and cringy. She's really goofy and just really silly, and she doesn't really add anything to the story besides being Alfie's girlfriend. And look, if you don't believe me, like, here you go, look for yourself.
Finally.
I'm so excited.
And Willow, you're the new Joe. Well done.
To squee or not to squee?
I'm really sorry to you Willow fans out there, but this character was not it in my opinion. Same kind of goes for Mick Campbell. I like Mick, but there's not really a whole lot to say about this character, to be honest. He's just a dumb, jock, sporty, cliche guy, but he's also a nice guy as well. Like, Mick's a cool dude, he's chill, but he doesn't really do a whole lot besides date Mara, and then he eventually leaves the show in season 2, and the show is better for it. But something you probably didn't know was that Mick was actually in the season 3 finale as an extra in the back. Now, I don't know if this was like canon to the show, or if like this is like a Mick cameo, but he was there, so yeah. Joy Mercer. Alright, so this one's interesting because in season 1 her character is not at Anubis' house, obviously, because of the whole Chosen One thing. So she doesn't really appear in the season except for a couple of scenes and a couple of episodes. So she doesn't really have much of a character in season 1. Like, she's basically like a side character. But in season 2, this girl went crazy. So in season 2, the writers kind of made her a dickhead. Like, she was really bad that season, bro. She tried to ruin Nina and Fabian's relationship like 100 times because she was in love with Fabian. She writes articles shaming her friends. She plays the victim a lot. Like, bro, she was really annoying. But I will say I did feel bad for her as well. Now, don't get me wrong, she did a lot of bad things, but if we just take a second to look at it all from Joy's perspective, you can't really hate her. Like, she was kept away from her friends and a normal life for like a year for basically no reason, because she finds out she's not even the real Chosen One anyway. And then she comes back to find out everything's changed and her friends are always doing Sabuna things, leaving her in the dark, and the boy she was best friends with is in love with the girl who basically replaced her. Like, she feels really alone, and I can sympathize with that. And I will say I loved how the writers kind of redeemed her in season 3. They made her like more charismatic and chill, other than the whiny and clingy version of her in season 2. Like, she's like completely over Fabian, she's just doing her own thing and just having fun. She eventually has this relationship with Jerome, which even though came out of fucking nowhere, they were still very cute together. And yeah, that's pretty much it for Joy's character. I wouldn't say she's one of the best characters, but she's definitely not that bad if you ask me. Jerome Clark. Okay, here we go. Everyone's favorite character, Jerome. So when we're first introduced to him in the beginning, he's shown to be like the bad boy, but with a good heart cliche, you know, like Eddie. He's like sneaky, a prankster, sometimes rude, but we soon find out that underneath all that, he's actually a good person. He just doesn't want people to see that because he thinks if people see that, then that's all they'll expect out of him, and that scares him. But he does learn to grow from that as a person, and it's mainly shown in his relationships, especially with Mara and Joy, that, you know, he actually has a sensitive side to him, and he's actually a pretty cool dude when he's just being himself. He helps Sabuna now and then, but he's not really a part of Sabuna. Like, he's not an official member. He just kind of helps out whenever he needs to. But even without the Sabuna thing, his individual storylines are still great on their own. Like him trying to build a relationship with his dad who's in prison in season 2 was really touching and really deep for a Nickelodeon show, and it added a lot of character growth to him to the point where at the season 2 finale he becomes a better man, but not only for Mara but for himself and his family. But unfortunately, after season 2, that so-called character growth kind of went downhill. After season 2, the writers just did not know what to do with him anymore, and it's pretty obvious. Like, they literally made him cheat on Mara, the girl he was chasing for 2 seasons, just to randomly, out of fucking nowhere, hook him up with Joy of all people. Like, for real? And he didn't even do shit in the movie. He was just kind of there, you know what I mean? He didn't even know what was going on. Like, this character is like the definition of wasted potential, man. I feel like he could have been better if in season 3 he permanently joined Sabuna or something. I don't know. One of my theories was that he was going to be the Osirian instead of Eddie, and that would have made sense because him and Eddie were like pretty much separated at birth. Like, they literally have the same personality traits. But I think they scrapped that idea because Mick left the show, so they had to bring in a new character, so they probably just thought, fuck it, give it to the American.
would be the American, wouldn't it?
But nonetheless, when this character works, it fucking works, man. It's a really deep character that they could have done so much more with, but hey, it is what it is. But this guy is still the man, and he pretty much is almost everyone's favorite character, and he's definitely one of the best actors on the show. So yeah. Amber Millington. So there's not really a whole lot to say about her. She's basically like the dumb blonde cliche of the show. I mean, don't get me wrong, she has her serious moments, but she's still just the funny blonde of the show. But that doesn't mean I don't like Amber. I love Amber, and I think she's funny and cool, and she's a great friend to the people around her. She has this hilarious relationship with Alfie throughout the show, but sadly they break up because obviously Amber left in season 3. I'm not really sure why the actress left the show, but the character left because of fashion school. So yeah. Alfie Lewis. So Alfie's pretty much the comic relief of the show, if you ask me. You know how every Nickelodeon show used to have that one goofy character who's the weirdo, you know, like Gibby from iCarly, or Kat from Victorious, or Carlos from Big Time Rush? Although he's not on these levels of weird, that's pretty much him. But what I like about him the most is that he's not just the funny guy. He does have his hero moments where he saves the day, and he knows when to be serious. Most funny characters, they're just always goofy, except for maybe one serious moment in the whole show. But Alfie's different. His character is funny when he needs to be funny, and he's serious when he needs to be serious. And he obviously matures throughout the show as well, and he then ends up with Willow at the end. I don't like Willow, so who cares? But yeah, nothing really bad to say about this character. He's pretty great and a fan favorite for a reason. Mara Jeffrey. Okay, so this character is alright, I guess. She's kind of like the sweet geeky nerd like Fabian. The only difference is she doesn't join the mysteries of the show until the movie finale. Like, she spent 3 seasons not knowing anything about the mystery at all, which is crazy to me. Like, how the fuck did she not find out what was going on? Like, seriously, bro. And the reason I don't really love this character is mostly because she's built on love drama. Let me explain. Mara never really gets a storyline to herself. We don't really know who she is. She's always like paired up with a guy. Like season 1, there was the love triangle between Amber, Mick, and Mara, and then she eventually ends up with Mick. And then in season 2, she starts having a relationship with Jerome. And then in season 3, there was a whole love triangle thing with Jerome, Willow, and Mara. And then she randomly fucking ends up with Fabian. Like, what's going on? Other than the love drama, her character doesn't really do too much, except for that one time where she was trying to get a teacher fired. Well, actually twice that happened, because she tried to get 2 teachers fired because one of them was training her boyfriend Mick and she got jealous. Okay, I guess. She does get some shit to do in the movie when she finally finds out about the mysteries, and she helps Sabuna, but it's kind of a little too late at that point. If you're a Mara fan, I'm happy for you, but this character was, I don't know. Anyway. Alright, so I just want to take a second to talk about the relationships of this show and how the writers can never just make them happy. Like, Fabian and Nina have a slow burn in season 1, and then they get together in the finale, and then they break up in the first few episodes of season 2, and then they get back together in the season finale again, and then they officially break up in season 3, obviously. Jerome and Mara were teased for 2 seasons only for them to break up as soon as they get together. Eddie and Patricia get together, then they break up off screen, then they get back together, but by that time that they're together, Patricia's already evil, so it's not really them together. Shit, I bet if there was a season 4, the writers would have said fuck it and broken up Joy and Jerome. It just annoyed me how the writers could never just keep a relationship happy together. But hey, it's teen drama, so fuck it. Patricia Williamson. So Patricia's like the mean girl, but who also has a good heart cliche. You know, like Jade from Victorious or Sam from iCarly. She first comes off as snarky, sarcastic, and sometimes rude, but at the same time, she never lets her friends down. And the more you see her, the more you see that she's just a down-to-earth girl with a little edge. And I don't know, it worked for me. She won me over, and she was my favorite character for a while. And she ends up in this love-hate relationship with Eddie, which I absolutely loved. I'm always a fan of the enemies to lovers trope, so yeah. But sadly, in season 3, for some reason, they kind of ruined her character. Like, I remember when I was rewatching the show after a long time, and I first started with season 3 for some reason. And while I was watching, I always thought to myself, like, what is the hype about Patricia? Why is she everyone's favorite character? Why is she everyone's main TikTok edit? But then I rewatched season 2 and I understood that the writers just ruined her in season 3. Like, season 3 Patricia is just grumpy all the time. She always has this mean face on. She's always getting jealous of Eddie and KT, and her chemistry with Eddie was not it that season, I'm sorry. And she doesn't even really get a chance to have any character moments in season 3 because she's one of the first characters to become a sinner, so she turns evil for the rest of the season. So we barely even get the real Patricia that season. At least in the movie, she kind of became her old self and had that season 2 Patricia vibe to her, so at least she got a good ending to her character. So yeah. Fabian Rutter. I love Fabian. This character is too good, bro. He's like the expert of the group. You know, he's the one who knows all about the ancient Egyptian gods, and he knows all about Egyptian history, and he's just like a regular high school kid who's just interested in that stuff. He's like Robert Frobisher Smythe Jr., you know what I mean? And Sabuna should be very grateful that they have this guy, because this dude literally solved almost all of Sabuna's problems. He found out about what each artifact they ever founded means. He was able to solve most of the puzzles that Robert Frobisher Smythe made. He could decode anything that has to do with Egyptian history. Even Robert Frobisher Smythe himself was impressed with his intelligence. But the thing I like the most about him is that even though he's like portrayed as the nice, sweet, nerdy, geeky cliche for the most part, this nigga will fuck shit up if he has to, especially if it comes to Nina. This dude does not fuck around when it comes to Nina or any of his friends. I remember one time when Rufus grabbed Nina and this nigga Fabian tackled him on sight. Like, don't get me wrong, Fabian is all nice and stuff, but he's not afraid to take charge and get shit done if he has to. You know, he's always 2 steps ahead of everyone. He's not someone to be fucked with, bro. We literally saw that when he became a sinner and was basically playing with everyone like they were pawns. Anyways, Fabian is an awesome character and is probably my favorite character, to be honest. And I don't really have anything bad to say about him, so yeah. KT Rush. Okay, before I go off, I just want you guys to know that I love Alexandra Shipp, and I am so happy that her career is going good for her. Like, she was literally just on Barbie. But the character KT Rush is probably the worst character on this show, in my opinion. She comes in as Nina's replacement in season 3, and she's paired up with Eddie, and they're basically the main duo of the season. And yeah, she's fine for the first 10 episodes, but when she finds out that she's a descendant of Robert Frobisher Smythe, she literally becomes unbearable. Bro, I am not kidding when I tell you almost 80% of her dialogue is my great-grandpa this, my great-grandpa that. Like, bro, nobody cares. We get it, he's your great-grandpa. Bro, she is so whiny and lame and boring. Like, I don't know, this character just did not work for me at all. And it sucked because she did have potential. Like I said, in the first 10 episodes of season 3, she's actually pretty cool. Like, she's all happy and she's all quirky and stuff, but once she finds out about great grandpa, it's over with, bro. I literally cannot stand her. But if I could throw this character a bone, I will say that her brother-sister vibe with Eddie is actually pretty sweet, and it's pretty much the main dynamic of the show after season 2. So, yeah. I remember there was once this scene, like in the middle of season 3, where Eddie was gonna tell KT he likes her, but then Fabian interrupts. And this scene is never mentioned again, by the way. And Eddie and KT stay platonic, which was probably for the best anyway, since petty fans would have probably rioted if that happened. But yeah, KT sucks. Anyway, Victor Rodenmar. So Victor's like the caretaker for the 12 students and pretty much like the strict father of the house. He tells them when to go to sleep, he punishes them if they do stupid things, you know, etc. But he is also Sabuna's rival throughout the show. Like, throughout the seasons of the show, all the mystical objects and stuff that Sabuna has found is ironically what Victor needs at the exact same time as well. In season 1, he wanted the Cup of Ink so he could be immortal. In season 2, he wanted the Mask of Anubis for the Tears of Gold. In season 3, he wanted to wake up Robert Frobisher Smythe from his sleeping spell. But all those times he wants or needs something, Sabuna is always in his way. And it's not like they mean to, it just kind of happens due to their circumstances. They are always crossing paths with Victor, and that's pretty much the reason Victor acts really harsh to the students sometimes, because they're always in his way. And even though people think of him as a villain, to me he's more of an anti-hero, because, you know, under all that anger, he actually has a good heart. Like, he actually genuinely cares for the children, he just rarely shows it. I remember the scene where Joy almost dies and Victor gives her the last tear of gold so she could live. He risked his chance of being immortal to save Joy's life. There was also another scene where he thought Alfie died and he was generally worried and scared, and he wanted to throw away the whole finding the mask plan because he was just too upset. And the kids also care for him as well. Like, it was shown a lot of times that the kids do care for him, and it's shown in their last scene together, especially when they say goodbye to him. But even though I like Victor, I will say I don't like how the writers were inconsistent with his character's motivations. Like, every season, Victor gets a new destiny. Season 1, his destiny was to drink from the Cup of Ink to become immortal. Season 3, his destiny was to wake up Robert Frobisher Smythe. And the movie, it was his destiny to stop the Touchstone of Ra from being built. You get it? The writers never really gave him a clear journey. I feel like they could have tapped into him accepting his mortality and that he's not gonna always live forever would have been better than giving him these random storylines every season. But I don't know. I still love Victor and he's the best actor on the whole show. So yeah, but anyways, who's next? Miller. So Eddie came in like season 2 as Mick's replacement for the show, and he's like the bad boy of the show now. He breaks the rules. Like, I'm not even gonna lie when I tell you this dude gave no fucks at all in season 2. He literally got half the school sick from a prank. He pranked his teachers, made fun of his classmates, skipped classes. He bitched Victor a couple of times because his dad is the headmaster of the school, so he's basically untouchable. I remember there was a scene where Nina was talking about her grandma in the hospital, and she's like, "Oh, my grandma's getting better and she's doing good." And this nigga said,
A little optimistic, maybe? She's in a coma, right?
Eddie.
Sorry.
This dude did not care in season 2. He really didn't. But it's also revealed in season 2 that Eddie is the supernatural protector of the Chosen One, called the Osirian. So like, he gets all these powers and stuff. Like, he's probably the most powerful on the whole show.
Where? What are you doing? Where is it? Right behind me. We need the name of Anubis. I banish you.
And also, even though Eddie starts off as kind of a dickhead in the beginning, he eventually does have some character growth, and it shows. Patricia, You start to see his more vulnerable side when he starts building a relationship with his dad. And in season 3, he's pretty much a really different guy. He goes from being the bad boy in season 2 to being like the male version of Nina in season 3. He's more caring, he's more mature, and to be honest, I don't mind it at all. I honestly think the whole bad boy thing would have gotten very old very quickly, and I honestly like that they gave him more character development and had him mature more. I like that he became the leader of Sabuna and he became a better man. And I usually don't really like main character replacements when the original protagonist leaves the show, but I loved Eddie and I'm glad he got his time to shine.
A siren or not, Sabuna needs you, Eddie.
Yes. That's what I need you guys to do.
Nina Martin. Alright, the main character of House of Anubis, Nina Martin. So Nina as a protagonist is really cool in my opinion. She's like the sweet, nice new girl who comes in from America, and she just has a vibe to her. Like, I can't really explain it. Like, you know, like her vibe is just like amazing. And also she's the chosen one. So yeah, she along with the Osirian is able to unlock secrets in the house, and she's basically put in the middle of the mysteries of the house, and it's her job to solve them. But yeah, she did leave and never came back, unfortunately. Pretty much the show forgets about her after the first 2 episodes of season 3. Like, they rarely mention her again, so yeah. And to be honest, if we're looking at it from her character's point of view and not the writing, it kind of makes sense for her character to leave. Like, Nina went through so much trauma in season 2, bro, it's not even funny. She gets haunted by a spirit who watches her every move. She almost dies twice. Her gran almost dies. Her friends almost die. She gets possessed. And Nina is like the type of girl who always puts the people around her first. She doesn't care what happens to her as long as her friends are safe. So her staying away to protect her friends, even though the way the storyline was executed was bad, it did at least stay true to her character. So hey, you can't be mad at that. But anyways, overall throughout the first 2 seasons of the show, Nina stays the same sweet, lovable girl, and it was really sad to see her go. I always kind of wonder how different and good season 3 could have been if she stayed, but hey, it is what it is, my friends. So yeah, even though some of the characters have their flaws, I'm not gonna lie, besides these 2, I still kinda love them. And I could watch them over and over again and still be entertained and have fun. The characters of House of Anubis just have this vibe to them, to the point where it feels like you're out there solving the mysteries with them. And sadly, some of them peaked at season 2 on a writing level, which sucks, and to be honest, the show could have just ended at season 2 and it would have been perfectly fine for me. All the characters get their happy endings in season 2. All the relationships get their happy endings. Even Victor gets his happy ending because he finds out that his father left him a tear of gold. So now he could complete his elixir and live for like another 100 years if he wanted to. But anyways, all the rest of the seasons, even with their flaws, are still good, if not great in their own way. I just feel like season 2 raised the bar pretty high for the rest of the seasons to follow. So yeah. Alright, that's all the seasons and characters explained on House of Anubis. I hope you House of Anubis fans enjoyed it, and I hope any new people who never watched House of Anubis wants to watch the show now. It had its ups and downs, but I truly recommend this show to anyone who's never seen it. It's a really fucking good show for a Nickelodeon show. And yeah, I hope everyone stays safe and healthy, and Sabuna!